Fooding Baimudan Showdown. 2018 compressed baimudan, 2007 compressed baimudan. Let's get it on. I do apologize for the interlude, but I thought it would be important for you to see these leaves all nice and whittled down. I do see you can throw white tea straight into the gaiwan and just start brewing and rely on the heat and pressure from the water crashing into it to break it apart. It's definitely one way to drink compressed tea. I don't think you need to break it down to each individual leaf and bud, but I think that breaking it down at least into smaller pieces really, really does help.
Yeah.
Because it helps you get an even extraction and saturation of the leaves. The problem with throwing in one chunk is that it works from the outward in, which is great, again, in one way for longevity, but you're going to get a very uneven saturation. You're going to be drinking, the outside leaves are going to become saturated while the inside will sometimes not even be touched. And sometimes when I've gone to empty leaves like that out after a session, I realize that like there's literally there's dry pieces in there. And like that just, whether I am wasteful or not, doesn't matter. It makes me feel really shitty. Like it's just like, you know what I mean? Like I really like, especially when it's expensive compressed aged tea. It's like, I really kind of dropped the ball on that one. So, okay, on this side, we have the fresh, and when I say fresh, 2018. I say fresh because aged really isn't considered until about 3 years comes into play. So, fresh 2018 Fooding Baimudan. Over on this side, we have the 2007 Fooding Baimudan. So, what's your take on Baimudan?
Ooh. I don't know. I feel like it's always been a consistent white tea for me. Like especially having yours, I think they've always hit the target.
They're definitely like Silver Needle of white tea has the more punchy notes, and Baimudan's got the sweeter side.
Yeah.
I like a Baimudan that's a little bud heavy because you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
But I used to think that Baimudan was just it was a tea that was meant to be aged. That it just in itself fresh. It wasn't bad tea, but it wasn't anything overly spectacular either. Until we got this tea, and this was the first fresh compressed Baimudan I had, and it was quickly recognizable to me that it made a huge difference.
Yeah.
The compression. And you think back on it, it makes sense. It's so, you know what I mean? Like it's sealed in the flavor. It's not as exposed to air.
Absolutely.
But it's just something that didn't really dawn on me or think that it was necessarily a factor in how much I liked that tea. But after having it compressed, it just pulls out a vibrancy and character that is, you can understand why it makes such amazing aged tea.
Right.
Which is, again, the whole point of why we're drinking the fresh versus the aged. This is actually even a tasting that just on my own I've wanted to be done for a while. So the initial steep we're going to do is just going to be about 25 seconds.
I would agree with you about the, like if we're comparing it to like Silver Needle, definitely sweeter, definitely more, has the malty,
plummy,
the fruity notes to it. I'm excited to taste these two side by side.
And just from you can look at the appearance of the leaves. Obviously, the fresh one is much more green.
Absolutely.
It's got a much lighter profile, even in just the coloration of the leaves. And here you go. You look at the liqueur. That's very apparent.
Yeah.
So let's just do aroma real quick.
Aroma.
So this is the aged Baimudan. Be somewhat careful. Give you guys a look at these.
Strawberry, maybe.
Ooh,
I get a lot. I get the raspberry jam like off the bat. but yeah.
So again,
Strawberries,
aged
raspberries, red berries. Yeah.
Red berries, a little bit of old upholstery, like really fancy furniture, like upholstery. Maltiness, but sweet, really, really sweet. And then this is the fresh. Totally different. Floral, a little like almost celery stalk.
Ooh.
Yeah. Punchy, like I said. Vibrant, crisp.
Yes.
All good words. Cornelius is getting it. A lot of tea.
Cornelius.
Wasted.
Yeah, definitely on the greener side of the aroma. A little bit of marshmallow.
All right. So let's go ahead. We'll start with the fresh baimudan. So we're actually going to pop this on top just to kind of keep that warm. So again, this side, we're working on the fresh baimudan. Winston's side, we're working on the aged baimudan. So again, you can just look at the appearance of the liqueur. Held that up earlier. This one is a dark sort of a golden amber copper. This is almost a little yellower than a high mountain oolong, but
you compare it.
Yellowy with a little tint of gold, green. So
cheers.
Cheers. Really nice mouthfeel. You get some floral notes. Sweet and juicy.
Tasting something. What is that?
Getting a little bit of grape. But it's got a nice crisp mouthfeel to it, but you notice it's not thin. Like even though it's a fresh white tea, it's got
really nice
just it's thicker than you would. How am I trying to say that? It's got a nice, significant mouthfeel when with a tea that's this sort of brisk and fresh. You would expect it to be much lighter.
Yeah, I've definitely had that for fresh white teas where it's lacking just a little bit on the mouthfeel,
and it like throws me off. Like sometimes if it's messing with the depth. Definitely getting like a fresh vegetable or like fresh vegetal kind of note. Like
getting like a kind of like on the other side of the spectrum, like kind of like a sweet bread or something, like a sort of a baked good.
I definitely get like
melon bread.
I definitely get baked bread.
Melon bread.
And it's juicy. Like it makes my mouth water a bit. All right. So now on to the 2007. So this has been in our store for a while now. I think at least 2 years. And it's
classic.
A favorite of customers. It's a favorite of mine. It's a tea that is so reliable at being really excellent. Like I just, no time I have this tea am I bummed out. And it's good in the winter. It's good in the summer. It's good in the morning. It's good at night. I like it prepared in a gaiwan. I like it prepared in a teapot. I can brew it longer. I can brew it shorter. I can have short sessions. I can have long sessions.
Mhm.
It really, because of that aged character, it just really helps to ensure that like each sip is something spectacular. Like right off the bat, I'm getting obviously a striking difference in.
Yeah.
I'm getting that leafy maltiness,
Yeah.
like that mulchy,
Mhm.
that mulched leaf,
Autumn, wet,
sugary, wet
fresh
leaf,
rain.
not degrading. Leaf like breaking leaves that are breaking down.
Mhm.
We're much past that here in upstate New York right now.
Yeah.
I'm also noticing the mouthfeel is significantly different with this one. Much smoother, which is like this is a known thing to be a difference with aged and fresh teas, that the character gets that caramelized, thicker, richer note. So does the color of the liqueur. So does the texture of the tea. It really overall becomes this different. It's almost like Pokemon. It's the same monster, but an evolution of itself. Yeah. Some would argue a better version. Some would not. But anywho,
to level up.
Yeah, just to level up.
Not in a like one's better than the other type way. But
it's just this
it's
one
evolved.
Even though doesn't have a light mouthfeel, and I'm talking about the fresh, it's got that punchiness. This one has more of a malted caramel, sweet, creamy, decadent. Yeah.
Fullness. Yeah.
Fullness.
I get it more like I see it as like a sort of a graph where like this one or the age kind of dips, not like dips, but like it kind of goes down, you know what I mean? And then the fresh kind of, it's more of a top note. Aging takes those top notes and it balances them, but it takes those low notes and it amplifies them. Yeah.
That's, I think, a pretty decent way of putting it. And again, that's not exactly what's going to happen to your tea, but it's like, from my experience and from what I've read, that's kind of the understanding of what it is to age white tea. But if we're kind of even just going off the looks, I mean, this one's been compressed for longer. Obviously, it's a little bit harder to decipher what is a bud and what isn't. Mm-hmm. But in this one, you can see there's a fair amount of buds in there. You can just see they look different enough from regular leaves. You know what I mean? They're a little more pointy. They're a little more needle-like. Right. They poke out. So like when you look at a gaiwan of leaves, you can get a good idea just by looking at, again, just sort of how bud heavy it is. And this isn't an extremely bud heavy fresh baimudan, but it's got enough to really give, even though it's fresh, give it a full character. Yeah. I think that's my problem with, again, a lot of fresh baimudan is that they have an overly fresh feel to them, which sometimes has it feeling like it's lacking in depth. And that's why sometimes aged white tea is preferred by some people, because that depth is guaranteed. It's there. You know it's going to be there along with the high notes, the balanced high notes. But I don't know. Now I'm starting to believe that it's just about compressing the tea right away off production. Like, I had the biggest revelation when I ordered these cakes to sample. It really was unlike any experience I had with fresh baimudan. I had a very kind of jaded view of it. I thought, I was just like, it's good, but it's much better aged. You know, just don't worry about it. If you're going to drink white tea fresh, you drink Silver Needle. Yeah. Yeah. It's not necessarily the case. Going in on steep 2, we're doing 25 seconds. 30 seconds. I lied. Oh, I got to finish my tea.
Do I still have some? I do.
A little plummy note, but not super, super strong. It just adds to the malty character. Right off the bat, I'm telling you, the liqueur is going to be darker for each tea. See that right off the bat.
I just can't ignore, there's always a note that I get, and it's sort of like a fresh laundry type.
Yeah, smell. Linen.
Like fresh out of the dryer for the aged. I mean, I do get it a little bit with the fresh, but
That's where I was going when we were
I
on
think
the.
it's like a baimudan thing.
We were on the first deep, and I was saying upholstery, like fancy upholstery. It's the same thing. It's that fibrous, that super fibrous, old school kind of.
I get it every time I drink this.
Like I think of my Nana's house growing up. Like she just had all these like handed down expensive linens and stuff, and so her house. And if you were sitting in one of those chairs, you smelled it like really hard. It's like a rich smell. Actually, gonna hold these leaves up so you guys can see them. They're plumping up quite a bit. It's always cool to see, especially with this, like, because this isn't super aged. It still has a lot of that. That's why it's still considered a fresh cake, is that it still has that fresh vibrancy. Usually when it crosses into the 3-year, that's when it becomes aged. And then they say 5 years medicine. I think 5 to 10 years is the sweet spot for tea, for white tea. Some would argue that it shows significant differences within a year. I'm not doubting that. I think you could probably, if you really looked at it, you could definitely find the differences, but I think you'd have to look pretty hard. So again, I'll give you guys a look at these liqueurs. I don't dip my fingers into the tea. Poisoning Sir Winston. So this one you can see, even though this is the fresh, it's gotten, the color has gotten more vivid. It's gotten more rich. It looks even more viscous. Looks a little bit more gelatinous. You know what I mean? The liqueur. And for a fresh white tea, being as that a lot of us usually have an introductory thought of white tea as being the weaker tea.
Yeah, like the light tea.
It's nice to see, again, a fresh one that has those qualities that I once thought were reserved to the aged. Needed the aging to become good. So again, this is the fresh. A little richer, a little sweeter, juicy.
I get a coconut note, and I don't like coconut, but it's not like a coconut and chocolate.
Yeah, it's dare you say slightly bitter. It's like it's almost like a soapy type of and you know a lot of soaps usually use coconut in them. Like that's
it's kind of a hint of coconut.
A little sharp hint of coconut. It's not. I don't think it's the creamier side of coconut.
No, not like a coconut milk, right?
And I wish we had the time.
Super vibrant.
Yeah, super vibrant. Like you can even you can taste vibrancy for sure. You can smell vibrancy. You can see vibrancy. But feeling vibrancy of a tea, especially with like a white tea like this, it's like I always explain it as like. You feel an excitement on your taste buds. Like, as soon as that liqueur hits it, like, just signals are just shooting to your brain. Like, whether it's good, bad, it thinks it's round, soft, sharp, whatever. But it's just like, it sends these, like, signals. But it's not like when you taste something that's bitter and then all of a sudden all you can think about is that bitter note.
Yeah.
And that's where it is a bad thing. When it's a good thing, it's more you notice it, it's great, and then you explore it a little bit.
Right.
The floral note gets stronger as it cools. Even in the cup, you can smell it's like a baby's breath floral. It's a powdery floral. I was very proud for this. Well, when you and others made the suggestion to make this video, I looked at the supply of where I was at with the cakes that I was currently like breaking up and putting in the store and drinking for myself. And I was super towards the end on both of them. And I was like, this would be a really great opportunity to open up 2 fresh cakes and just break into them right off the bat.
Yummy.
I still say there's a nice celery note in this tea. Like I wouldn't go as far as to say there's a brothiness because I don't know if it has like kind of the carrot and onion additions to that, but just in terms of like celery. Like I like to when I cook things like chicken and stuff like that. I like to add a little celery salt.
Yeah.
And I definitely get a little celery, and like obviously not the salt portion of that, but you get the essence of celery for sure.
Yeah.
And I get that. I get that in the fresh tea. Obviously, I do not get that in the aged tea. It's one of the big differences for me, and it's one of the things that for my brain it sets it apart is being smoother and like the difference between it being super smooth and sweet and slick and it being more vibrant and punchy.
Yeah.
But they really do keep, because of that compression also, they keep changing like steep to steep. It's not quite like a ball rolled oolong where you're going to, I don't think it's as drastic of a flavor change steep to steep, but I think the name of the game with aged white tea is just that the experience is like constant. Like one steep builds off the other steep, and things get strong. Things get stronger, but it's like an organic growth of strong. You know what I mean? It's not like a spike, and all of a sudden it gets really sharper. Yeah. But it just has this nice little kind of coast, like path trajectory that it goes on.
That's a good description. I like that.
And they're both actually very juicy, but in super different ways. Like that malty character seriously makes up so much difference. Mm-hmm. You know what I get in the fresh? Lemon. Ooh. Tell me if you get it. It goes along with that crisp. When I was trying to figure out the bitter note, or what I was trying to sense,
it's a zestiness.
Like yes. For some reason, it screams lemon to me, but
I didn't want to be like, it smells like lemon too.
Oh yeah. I like lemonade.
But I agree. There's definitely a citrus as to that.
This one just plummy. Rich.
A lot of fig, dried fruits,
and just like richness.
Yeah.
And I find like the compression with both really helps for the multiple steepings. Like fresh baimudan, and I don't know if that just is another thing of because it has the surface area exposed so much that's why it kind of steeps out quicker, just because just as much as it's exposed to air, it's exposed to water, so it extracts more, you know what I mean, over steep, so that's it doesn't necessarily have the longevity. Still something obviously I'm experimenting with, but something that a revelation I had big time when I started drinking baimudan that was freshly pressed.
Fresh press.
Mm-hmm. So this one would be about 35 seconds.
French press? No, fresh press.
Fresh press. Mm-hmm. Fresh being the key word. Even like this one bubbles up more than this one.
Ooh, you're right.
I wonder if that's something that's more readily, more available in the leaf when it's fresh. Possibly, who knows? Or it could be viscosity.
That could be, yeah. I forget that bubbles are an indicator of that.
I think they can be a symbol of
like a rabbit hole in itself.
Yeah, because I was just gonna say it can be a sign of thick astringency and it can be a sign of thin astringency. Like if the bubbles stay, thick astringency. If they dissipate quickly, it's a sign of more like fizziness. You know what I mean? It's just the bubbles are there just from agitation, as opposed to the bubbles are there because they were implanted in the water and because of the viscosity didn't leave. I know. Could just go on for hours and hours and days and days.
that color.
Yeah, it's gotten pretty dark. I consider what I feel off of white teas to be more of sort of like a lighter tea high. Like when I think pu'er, I think sink to my seat.
Yeah.
It's not like I feel like I need to jump up and run a marathon, but I find that white tea gives me a more thought provoking.
It's a mellow, like a
you
chills
just
you out.
you're chilled out, but like I really find that it's thought provoking. Well, we could sit here and drink tea with you guys all day long, but I'm sure that you have better things to do. So head to Unytea.store, definitely pick up both of these teas and try them for yourselves. In conclusion, I'll say that I think that fresh baimudan, I'm a little more selective about which days I drink it on. I'm a little bit more particular. When, on the other hand, aged tea, I could drink, especially white tea and baimudan, speaking more specifically, I could drink anytime. But the differences, I think, are vibrant and punchy, slick, juicy, and sweet. They're both loves in my eyes, but to like you've said many times before, to claim one is the victor is rather stupid.
Yeah. I totally agree with those comparisons. I really enjoy the red berry notes that I get in aged baimudan, and then I really enjoy the vibrancy and the mouthfeel of the fresh. I think it kind of stands out to other fresh baimudans. I feel like it has a really nice texture and mouthfeel. I kind of compare them, like, if you want to talk about alcohol here, you have like bourbon on this side with the age, and then like a scotch.
It's a super accurate comparison. So if this has intrigued you, if this has sparked your tea nerdery, then I would suggest doing one yourself. You can purchase ours at Unytea.store, or if you would like to do this test on your own and you'd like to find your own sources, that's absolutely fine. Things I would remain constant would be production area.
Yep.
So production area, the amount of leaf, compressed or uncompressed, and then as you're steeping them, keep the same temperature, the same time, the same leaf ratio, the same size vessel, and then just steep them side by side. You don't necessarily have to have some huge epiphany, but to sit down and just drink a tea back to back, even one that you think is extremely similar, sometimes within exploring those similarities, you end up finding like giant differences, which is all adding to the experience of being a tea drinker and becoming a more advanced tea drinker and expanding your palate.
Yeah.
So, per usual, guys, thank you a ton for joining. As I'm Jeff, this is Winston. Follow us on social media. If you have any suggestions for videos, please shoot them over to us. If you like them, hit like, subscribe, do all the wonderful things. Follow on all the social medias. Keep drinking tea is the most important part of that, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.